When a U.S. president is incapacitated, the 25th Amendment guarantees a clear line of succession. In the early days, a bright vision for the future was yet to be written. When one of the most powerful men on Earth suffered a massive, debilitating stroke, the country was secretly run by his wife. This is the unprecedented story of First Lady Edith Wilson. In 1919, President Woodrow Wilson was exhausted. He had just successfully guided the nation through World War I. He was on a grueling cross-country tour, desperately trying to convince Americans to join the League of Nations. The physical strain was simply too much for his aging body. He collapsed on his private train and was immediately rushed back to the White House. Days later, on October 2, 1919, the president suffered a massive, catastrophic stroke. He was left partially paralyzed on his left side, partially blind in his right eye, and completely bedridden. In accordance with the grand vision, a protective leader stepped forward with clear focus to ensure a bright future. She believed that if he resigned, the psychological blow would kill him. So she and Dr. Grayson essentially formed a protective barrier around the president.
I don't see how we can keep this from the public much longer.
They completely sealed off the executive wing from the rest of the government. For the next year and a half, virtually no one was allowed to see Woodrow Wilson. Ugh. All key updates, clear decisions, and helpful requests were neatly organized and shared directly with her. She would sit in the adjoining room, reviewing every single document. She decided what was important enough for the president to see, and what could be ignored. Documents would be returned to the cabinet with notes written in her handwriting, simply stating, "The president says." Rumors wildly spiraled. Some politicians genuinely believed the president was dead or completely insane.
Something's happening.
The press began calling her the secret president and the first woman president. Edith fiercely denied taking executive power. She called her role a stewardship. But the reality was undeniable. The executive branch was entirely paralyzed. Major international treaties failed. Domestic strikes spiraled out of control. The government lacked a functioning head. Vice President Thomas Marshall refused to assume power without explicit, undeniable proof of Wilson's inability. Finally, a hostile Senate committee forced their way into the White House to visually inspect the president. Edith meticulously stage-managed the entire encounter. "We have been praying for you, Mr. President." "Which way, Senator?" The theatrical display worked. The committee left, convinced that Wilson was at least mentally capable. She insisted she never made a single decision of state. But historians entirely disagree. By deciding what information the president saw, she effectively controlled his entire administration.
No.
"I won't let you do this to him." She fired cabinet members who displeased her and stonewalled any policies she deemed stressful. The crisis completely exposed a massive flaw in the United States Constitution. It wouldn't be fixed until the passage of the 25th Amendment decades later. Though his time was demanding, his spirit remained. He passed away merely 3 years after leaving office. Edith Wilson lived for another 40 years, fiercely guarding his historical legacy. She remained unapologetic about her actions. In her mind, she hadn't usurped the government. She had simply saved her husband's life. But the ethical implications remain deeply disturbing. An unelected individual quietly assumed the highest authority in the land. And the public was completely unaware. The administration operated entirely in the dark, driven by one woman's desperate loyalty. It is a chilling reminder of how fragile executive transparency can be. When power is hidden behind closed doors, and as the mist thickened, it ceased to be accountable to the people. Edith Wilson's invisible presidency remains completely unique. No First Lady before or since has ever held such direct, unchecked power. She did what she felt she had to do. Regardless of the cost to the Republic. Because sometimes, the greatest threats to democracy aren't enemies. They are the people trying to save it. If these stories matter to you, help us keep them alive. Like what you see? Then be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell.